Hey, welcome to David's Life and Observation with your host, David Welch. Today's show covers quite a few things that are mainstream in the news right now. One of the main things in the news right now is a recent shooting of a woman inside her home. What ended up happening was law enforcement officers were called there to do a wellness check. Her neighbor was concerned. 62, 63-year-old man was like, yo, they don't normally leave their door open. And I just want a wellness check just to see how she is. I want an officer to come see if everything's okay. And what ended up happening was not okay, was entirely a tragedy. And it just goes to show that calling law enforcement for anything is a very dangerous prospect. And a lot of people are going to freaking naysay me like, well, then call it crackhead. Well, if that's your neighborhood crackhead and you have a good relationship, they may be able to do a better job. I'm going to be honest with you. Calling law enforcement for anything, even if it's a wellness check, really, really ups the ante for violence because they're bringing a violent mindset. Whether they tell you or believe it or not, they are bringing a violent mindset because they are armed and they have a mode of operation. They have a mode of dealing with things in a manner that mitigates safety, well, which makes it safer for them, but hella dangerous for everybody else. In the situation where the lady lost her life due to an officer shooting through her window, which is exactly what happened, officer said, hey, drop the gun. There was no gun in the lady's hand, and she was shot immediately in her own home, doing nothing illegal, and having a firearm is not illegal. Having no idea that the police is at your window creepily pointing a flashlight at you through the window, you don't know who it is. You don't. And then the officer did not give her time to respond. He said, hey, this police dropped the gun, fired. There was no, I mean, the video's out there. Andre from Horizon City News, hopefully he links this, kind of meshes this with that video that I'm talking about. But at the same time, if a friend of yours is in mental crisis, or a neighbor that you believe is something may be going on, it is okay as we the people to gather some friends and go check it out ourselves. Or hey, if call, try calling the fire station, call the fire department, because they're not going to go in guns blazing because those motherfuckers aren't carrying guns. Say, you know what, hey, I'd like to call the fire station. Hey, I'm concerned. Or, call the nearest mental health facility, see if they can't send someone to have a conversation with the individual. But bringing law enforcement into it automatically ups the death rate possibility, because even if you're doing a wellness check, if that person is in fact armed and they are contemplating whether they're going to take their life, the cops will go ahead and do that for them. The cops will, in order to save that person's life, they end up shooting that person. We've seen it time and again, especially if the person is having a mental breakdown and you go into their space, you want to search their house for weapons, and that right there puts everyone at risk, because the person's going to get possibly locked up on an emergency detention order, and that affects their job, that affects everything. Like calling the cops on your neighbors, even if it's for something as crucial as trying to save their life, possibly if they're having a mental health breakdown, could end up in turn killing them and causing irreparable damage. Okay, it very well could. So calling law enforcement, even when you're trying to do a good thing. Another video surfaced where a gentleman did the same thing. He called law enforcement to check on his neighbor because his neighbor wasn't answering the phone, not answering the door. He's posting things online like, I'm going to take my life, things like that. And he calls law enforcement, and law enforcement shows up and ends up harassing the man for documenting what they're doing in a public setting. So it's just one of those things where you invariably cause irreparable damage sometimes, not just to the individual you're calling for, but to possibly yourself for being the caller. And a lot of us care about our fellow man. So, sometimes it's more than a conversation with just us. Sometimes, you can go over there and have a conversation with your neighbor, but if they're not willing to, seek the help and you want to help, get them the help they need, contact a mental health professional. Because calling the police is, like I said, invariably going to get them in a more hostile state of mind, even if it's the sweetest officer in the world. In fact, officers that do respond to mental health crises, I really don't believe should be armed with a firearm. If they're responding to a mental health crisis and they're there in a genuine capacity to have a conversation with someone and get them the treatment that they need, bringing a gun to the situation, like I said, automatically ups the ante. It ups the anxiety for the person being contacted by the police. So if you're the good neighbor, try yourself to have the contact. Try yourself to see if you can't get them to go to a facility, get checked in. If that doesn't work, calling the police again is invariably dangerous. It will cause harm. Now, if you want someone who is in a depressive state, but they didn't necessarily say that they're going to kill or harm themselves, leave them the fuck alone. Because it's people's outside opinions and bullshit. And when you call cops to interact with that human being, and cops are using that as carte blanche to do illegal searches, to confiscate firearms from people that are legally allowed to own them because of your belief of somebody else's emotional state. There are some people that are just downright miserable all the time, and they don't necessarily have the mechanism to convey that they're in a bad way, or they don't have the mechanism to subvert their feelings. But imposing the dangerous police and the dangerous state agents on them could kill your friend, could kill the person you're trying to help. So don't do it. Calling the cops for any situation can get everyone killed. The cops being in, just in public, they kill people enough just being in public. So a lot of people are like, well, we need cops, and I'm really struggling to find the real reason we need law enforcement. Now, of course, when there's been a heinous crime, and you want somebody to investigate it, and you want somebody to bring someone to account, law enforcement is still maybe not even the best option for that, because they might end up imprisoning somebody falsely. They may end up killing the person who didn't commit any crime whatsoever in their search for the person who did commit a crime. So you do wreak havoc on a community by having law enforcement present. I mean, we've seen it where a simple shoplifting case here in Phoenix went from something that could have probably been handled with a single conversation to armed people putting people at gunpoint and screaming for them to get out of the car when there's been no weapon reported, no violent activity reported, other than simple theft. And then the theft that was reported was questionable at the time, but then, they later found out, they were committing a series of thefts, which is okay to stop, but not okay to do it in the extreme violent manner that happens. Especially here in Phoenix. Phoenix cops are really looking to shoot someone. Cops in Arizona generally. I mean, we saw that with the Mesa police. They are a hands-on type of police station. They want to fuck people up. They want to kill people. People that are not necessarily doing anything illegal, but drinking in their hotel room. And for someone on the outside of that hotel room to actually just see the barrel of a gun and say the guy was like aiming it outside, which there's no proof of that ever happening. But if he was accused of brandishing and you had the witness willing to do that, still there was an easier way to handle that whole debacle versus making a guy play the worst game of Simon Says in the game in the history of the world and end up losing his life over it because he's pulling up his basketball shorts that are slipping and falling while he's drunk, while he's inebriated. Or in Mesa again, the gentleman that just, was trying to help his homeboy get his stuff, didn't make any furtive movements, didn't do anything violent, just, and agreed or complied with what the officers were asking him, still got his ass beat for no reason. And it's a, like I said, it's just a miracle of the virtue of law enforcement, having them anywhere near sane people, having them anywhere near any situation makes it violent, and it makes it potentially life-threatening and worse for any human being to endure. Now, there are people who are wrongfully accused all the time. We have an officer. This is big news in Texas. Actually, I think it was Kentucky, but it may have been Texas. An officer had 119 cases thrown out because he was repeatedly on his own body camera planting drugs. We have individuals that are law enforcement who do that. We cannot trust their word. Trusting their word means nothing. They are not credible witnesses. They are just not credible witnesses. If a law enforcement officer without video is your only witness, and they're accusing you of a crime, you should automatically get thrown out, because there is no credibility in law enforcement. By the virtue of them being law enforcement doesn't mean there's credibility in what they say, because they get caught on video all the time lying, or you watch the video and their actions dictate something different than they put in the report, but they're doing everything they can to throw you in a cage. They're going to do everything they can to eliminate anything that has anything to do with their perceived perception of safety. And that's very true with police in the Phoenix area. If you're a police officer in the Phoenix area, please quit. Please no longer do your job. You are a welfare recipient. You receive welfare from the people at an astonishingly high amount of money. I'm talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So City of Phoenix police make an ungodly amount of money, and they do an ungodly amount of irreparable damage to people who don't know their rights. And they are, like I said, Phoenix cops have a problem with mental health. You had a young man way out there, I think it was Goodyear. A young man was outside, he was stemming, and if you are a friend or an understanding person of the autism community, you know what he was doing. Even if it's readily apparent to a law enforcement officer that the young man, who was a teen, by the way, is doing something that does appear like they are on drugs, that doesn't necessarily, mean that they are on drugs, and it also doesn't mean that you have this automatic authority to go hands-on in a situation. It'd be better if you waited till an adult was present before you went hands-on with any fucking minor whatsoever. That way you're doing it with enough witnesses to say, hey, this minor was combative, or this minor did something that was illegal and dangerous to other human beings, and I had to stop it. Those are the only reason you should ever go hands-on with a minor. And even then, if they're not doing anything that's, highly dangerous to someone, the whole point of going hands-on is fucking moot. Because words matter more than words, and having a conversation with that minor and understanding what's going on. Now, if you think he's being evasive with answering your questions, which he doesn't have to answer, if you think as a law enforcement officer that they're doing something that's real fishy and you believe drugs are involved, call back up and wait. It's okay to wait. If they're not putting anyone in danger other than themselves, possibly, it is okay to wait. And even then, you just don't know. And then and then it was a miracle that the police department didn't even apologize for it. All the mother wanted was an apology, and they chose not to apologize for I don't know what reason. Couldn't get an officer to admit he was wrong and apologize, which is the only thing the lady was wanting, and a little bit of help with the medical bills that the officer caused. We have an epidemic in Chicago where, and I'm going to say it again, you have an epidemic where law enforcement officers who are still fighting the drug war are blowing people's house doors off the hinges, throwing flashbangs, killing animals of all sorts, shooting people who are reacting to Noonock raids, and then having the gall to laugh and smile about it when you figure out, like, oh, well, I'm on camera, this person has a security system, and then you laugh at other people's misfortune. Shame on you, and yeah, you need to get out of the business. It's not for you. Public service is not for you. If you have an inherent belief as a federal employee uh, that people with a camera coming in to do public business, and that may be their only business, is filming and documenting for the public and educating the public about what transpires in a public building. They are allowed to do that, and they don't need public officials' permission. And then you call people with guns to get the photographers out, and then you find out that the photographers and videographers are allowed to be there and do what they're doing, and you still try to assault them. But the whole point is, on this one, is you called men with guns who have a history of violence to hurt someone or to affect someone that is not breaking the law. Anytime you do that, you are putting them in danger, because that cop could be having a bad day. He may not care about the fact that he's going to violate that person's rights and end up killing the person he's trying to whose rights he's trying to violate. And then it becomes a wrongful death situation, and the city gets sued, and taxpayers pay even more money for nonsense caused by public officials. So stop calling the police for things that are not worthy of calling the police, like videography and photography in a public building. It's not illegal. On a public street, not illegal. There are businesses out there, businesses like power plants, any sort of government-related business is open to scrutiny. Any business really is open to scrutiny, especially from a public vantage point. Calling law enforcement, calling security on people, or armed security on people who are doing a protected activity just because you don't want them there, you should absolutely fucking be arrested for that. And why on God's green earth it's allowed to persist without legal action on the part of the person who's being called on is beyond my understanding. It really is. Because if there is a false call, or a call where there has been no crime committed by the individual, and armed men come and try and confront, intimidate, or do whatever, instead of just educating the people that called, saying, hey, he's legally allowed to be there, then that is something that should be an arrestable offense. If you're a false witness, which is what you're doing, or if you're reporting a non-crime, you should be told by dispatch, hey, there's nothing wrong with, are they on public property? Okay, well, then they're legally allowed to do that. We need to get it to where dispatchers are knowledgeable enough, or gain the knowledge and have the knowledge base to say, hey, I would send an officer out there, but is the guy doing anything dangerous? Is he threatening? And then you have people on film who work in a public capacity, who are public officials, calling the men with guns to come deal with someone, and they are providing lies to law enforcement or the dispatcher to say, hey, he threatened me, he made terroristic threats, or he threatened to harm me, or hey, he's threatening me with a gun even though the person has no gun, or they never made a threat because it's all on the person's video who's video recording. That's why it's important, it's important in this day and age, and we're going to get to the point where I believe we're going to be like Russia, where everyone's going to be required to have a dash cam, because it only saves your butt. It really does. I have a dash cam on my camera, thank God for that. Otherwise, who knows? I may be accused of something I never fucking did. And it happens way too often. It happens way too much, where people are accused of something they never did, and law enforcement bends over backwards and the truth in order to throw that person in a cage. We see it often. Okay? So calling law enforcement for anything regarding mental health, and calling law enforcement in general, is dangerous. Don't do it if you don't have to. And don't do it if someone's not breaking the law, even though you don't like what they're doing. If they are saying things that you don't like, but they're not threatening anyone, fucking so sad. Whoop-de-fucking-do. You don't have to see them. And for hospitals to believe that everything in a hospital is HIPAA, you're fucking stupid. You're the custodian of that information. It's on you, as hospital staff and doctors, to keep that information private, and people are allowed to film in a hospital. They're allowed to do it. Okay? It's for their safety that they do, because things go down in hospitals like malpractice all the time, and it's never caught or dealt with because there's no video proof of that information. There's no proof. And hospital staff is more and more acting like law enforcement, and they will do anything to cover each other's ass and not take on a lawsuit. They will lie. They will be deceitful. It happened in my case, where you had medical health professionals, mental health professionals lie to law enforcement just to get me locked up. In fact, the conversations with the sheriff's deputies and the mental health professionals only confirmed that. But I still got put in a mental facility. So being falsely accused does cause irreparable damage. It really does. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to talk about that's in the news, the whole Ellen DeGeneres and George W. Bush being at a game and then celebrities throwing fucking hate at that. Like, I'm sorry, it's a fucking game. Two people can sit next to each other. Yeah, do I believe Bush is a war criminal? Yes. Do I believe that Ellen DeGeneres is liberal LGBTQ grandstander and advocate? Yeah, she is. But the fact that they can't both sit and enjoy a game is fucking stupid. Because why the fuck does it matter who she sits next with? If she took it upon herself to say, you know what, hey, I don't want to sit next to George W., that would have been her choice. Same with George W. If I don't want to sit next to Ellen DeGeneres because I don't believe in who she is or what she stands for, that's on them. But if they're okay sitting next to each other to enjoy a game and for them to communicate with one another is not a fucking problem. Just because you have this preconceived notion of who they are doesn't mean they're not allowed to do something. I normally would agree with Mark Ruffalo, but Mark Ruffalo, dude, there are probably hundreds of people a day that you've probably, not a day. There are fans that you've probably taken pictures with that if you learned their political ideation, you would not be friends with them. You would not communicate with them on any other circumstance. So it's like, come on, let's be real. Let's be human about this. Just because we believe the human's a terrorist and somebody who committed war crimes, yeah, that guy should be behind bars, but we've got to do it in a legal way because he was a sitting president at that time. Obama did the same thing, and I really didn't see your tweet throwing shade on Obama for the people he's been around, for the people he's communicated with. So if you're going to throw shade at one former president, you got to throw shade on another who also, during the Obama administration, we had the whole Snowden thing. So where the fuck is your shade on him? I hear nothing but crickets, Mark. And like I said, I normally agree with you on, I stood behind you for Standing Rock. I stand behind you in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I love your work as an actor. But as a public figure, yeah, you're entitled to your opinion, but come on, man. Let's be real. There's no harm in having a dialogue. But again, as a prominent person, there's always going to be commentary. The whole thing about Ellen, the whole thing about George W. is, being a public person, being a former president, and being Ellen, the comedian Ellen, the Ellen DeGeneres show, and her as a person in that LGBTQ community, you have to understand that you're going to face public scrutiny. Deleting tweets and having apologies and shit like that. Stand on your fucking ground. Stand on your own 2 feet and say, no, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. Take it or fucking leave it. Why apologize? No fucking reason to apologize for sitting with George W. Bush and having a conversation, even if it's a cordial one or a heated one or whatever have you. If you're enjoying a ball game together, so what? It's not like if I had the opportunity to sit next to Kim Jong-un and enjoy a ball game with him and have a conversation, I probably would still do it because, yeah, he's a public figure. Yeah, he's a leader of a shitty little nation of North Korea. And it's, for as much of a monster as he is, he's still a human being. And you can have normal things around human beings you may not normally ever have a dialogue with or come into contact with. It's not like they're like homies. It's not like they fucking have barbecues together. And even if they did, still, so fucking what? America's got a problem about fucking projecting nonsense and bullshit on other people. And they're always in other people's fucking business. Mind your own business, do your own fucking thing. And if you do have an opinion, great, so what? But don't fucking browbeat someone because they decided to make something as simple as enjoying a ball game together a thing. It's not a thing. It's like, why are you guys even talking about that in the community? There are other atrocities and shit going on that need to be brought to light, and your focus is on the fact that George W. Bush and Ellen enjoyed a ball game together. The fuck out of here. Go actually do some research and go actually do some. Or if you're the fucking social justice warrior and you want Bush to be held responsible for his war crimes, pursue that instead of just talking about it. And if you're in the LGBTQ community and you want fucking Ellen to apologize, go eat a big, fat bowl of dicks, if that's your thing. Because she's a person, she's allowed to do what the fuck she wants to do. If you don't want to prescribe to her fucking show anymore, if you don't want to support her foundations, okay, fan-fucking-tastic. Go be you. Go do you. Go support whatever peanut fucking gallery you want to support. Because I'm sure somebody, some company you bought clothes from, some company you bought a coffee from endorses something you don't necessarily politically align with. And that's motherfucking K. Because it's a free market and you can make your choices and change any which way you want. So go eat a bowl of dicks and leave Ellen the fuck alone. And she shouldn't have to apologize for shit. That in general, if you make public comments, you won't see me deleting tweets. You won't see me deleting comments. You sure as fuck won't see me apologizing for my comments towards the government, towards the police, towards any public figure I want to talk shit about. You won't see me apologize for that shit. And if in my comments, if in my dialogue I say something you don't like, I don't give a damn. I really don't. Go eat a bowl of fucking dicks. That's the number one response I fucking say to people. If you don't like what I say, go eat a bowl of dicks and then go find someone else that you want to have a dialogue with that aligns with what you believe in or aligns with what you think. Because I don't always align with what people think. You know, I'm not a extreme liberal. I am not on the right. I'm not even libertarian. I have my own set of beliefs, that are independent to me. Do I endorse some things on the left? Yes. Do I endorse some things on the right? Yes. Do I endorse things that are in the middle? Fuck yeah. Do I endorse, a libertarian type of mindset? Yes, but not every fucking detail. Just because you are a free-thinking human being, you are allowed to make the choice of who the fuck you have discourse with and who you don't. So if you choose to engage me in the future, if you choose to engage my past, and you're looking at tweets from 10 fucking years ago, and you want to find some sort of shade or I hope you watch this video. I hope you do catch it and say, yeah, this dude's a real motherfucker. And he's going to say, and he's going to back up everything that he says. If you look at this video from in the future and you're like trying to find some sort of mechanism that I've always hated cops, that's not even anywhere near the truth. I can say that I have grown to very much loathe the profession, and I have grown to very much detest what police officers do these days. That is entirely 100% true. But to say I was always a cop hater is bullshit, because I have friends in law enforcement that are great human beings. They just don't necessarily like the job that they've chosen to do. So that's my stance on that. What else is in the news that's really coming out lately? Well, it's pretty decent commentary for what's going on these days. Like I said, the whole Ellen George Bush thing, so what? And actually something that I just thought about, Assange. MIA was right. He is being wholly persecuted by governments for spilling the beans, for calling out the truth. And if your government is criminalizing people for exposing their crimes, whether it's war crimes or spying crimes or whatever crimes that they expose, and they expose them, and they are not enemies of they are enemies of the government, not enemies of the people. Because the people have a right to know what the government's doing with their tax, with their money, and with their fucking time. Every right to know. And if you're a government employee and you honestly think that people don't have a right to that information, get the fuck out of office. You're an embarrassment to the United States of America. You're an embarrassment to Great Britain. If you're an embarrassment to Canada, because Canadian cops are getting more and more like American cops, you guys are fucking retards. And I'll say that to any Canadian cop to their fucking face. You guys are a bunch of bitches that don't believe in freedom or liberty. The PC dickheads, the police constables in London and England and all over the UK, you guys are a bunch of pieces of shit too. Fuck you guys, because you guys always want to use the Terrorism Act for every fucking thing. Anytime anybody breaks out a camera, oh well, according to the Patriotism Act or the Terrorism Act, I need to have your details. So fuck you and your want for everybody's details. You know, this isn't Nazi Germany. In fact, I think England, you picked fights with people over that very terroristic fucking thing, over show me your papers and the demonization of a people, and you fucking do it yourselves, you hypocritic, tea drinking motherfuckers. Fuck you guys. And for all the cops that are always out there like, well, I need to see ID. I need ID. I need ID for everything. Fuck you too. Fuck you and your Nazi Gestapo bullshit. You look like Nazi Gestapo. You act like Nazi Gestapo. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a motherfucking duck, and you're a fucking duck. So that's the way it is. You don't like people constantly hating on the American police or the police in Canada or the police in the UK, then stop doing fascistic shit. Start making moves in government and your police unions to ensure that law enforcement officers are safe, in the sense that, hey, if they're doing something, they have to have clear understanding of what the rules are. And unfortunately, we've gone to the point where law enforcement officers will damn near need their bar card in order to do their job, because they are woefully unequipped to do it as is. They don't get enough training in the law, and they don't keep up on the law in order to make educated arrests and make educated understanding and apply the law properly. They don't. In fact, they are often given carte blanche on how they choose to enforce the law and how they choose to protect people's civil liberties, which, you know, if you're in the UK or Canada, I can't really speak on your guys' civil liberties or even know that you guys have them. I don't believe you guys have a lot of freedom, because you guys are just showing in the laws that you don't. But when it comes to the United States of America, we have a constitution predicated on freedom. And we have violations of people's freedom that should be an arrestable offense. It should be to the point where, yo, I got video of this cop violating this guy's rights, or he did it repeatedly, or he has so many cases. They should be incarcerated automatically without pay, no suspension, do not pass go, do not collect their pension. Yeah. And if you have a gypsy cop like going to 1, 2, 3 different departments, come on, the post certification should be the first thing to go. So if we're a society that's going to keep law enforcement around and the judicial system around, we're going to have to revamp it so that they apply laws or enforce laws that have a victim, like theft or murder or assault. All these other trivial violations of code, violations of some sort of regulation that other people made up, it's only going to endanger the life of law enforcement officers. And the war on drugs is failing. So the whole beating of a dead horse, so we should keep pursuing the war on drugs and raiding people with no-knock raids, you're only creating a bad situation for the people that they harm, that they don't pay for, and then the people and the law enforcement officers themselves who are just trying to do a job and not get shot. And there's high dangers of that, because they keep doing shit to the public and keep harassing the public and keep violating people's rights to the point where people are sick and tired of it. People are just beyond done with the American fascistic police. So there you have it, guys. That's what's a little bit in the news today. If you like the podcast, please share the podcast. Listen to my other podcasts. If you enjoy the video, please like, subscribe, and comment. Please, let me in on what you're thinking. And, please share this with your friends. Today is a special day. I'm going to go out and do some audits. Finally, some First Amendment audits. I don't think I'm going to carry. I'm probably not going to do a Second Amendment audit. But I'm definitely going to go do some First Amendment audits today. And Look forward to seeing me either A, go live, or hey, look forward to the video that's going to get posted. Now, if nothing happens, if I don't have anything to post, then I probably won't post it. I probably won't post anything. I'm not going to give you guys dead air. I'm only going to give you guys actionable video. That way you guys can see interactions, and essentially the police or government officials will only prove my point.